So you have to ask yourself, the more volume you want, the higher the percentage goes. And that's why you babysit it and manage it on ROAS, right? When I said that if you're only doing a small pocket, and this is all I'm going to do, percentage going to be 3. If you want to do more, percentage going to be 7. If you want to go even bigger, it could get up to 10. You have to price yourself into that and know that, because you're getting bodies, you're getting fish that you wouldn't have got before, because you're not getting the lay down call-ins. You're gaining other business. And that's why that's going to go up. So you can't measure the two against each other. You can only measure ROAS. And remember, I said it's important. There's 3 metrics you need to always remember in this. Your ROAS is first, your cost per sale is second, and then your volume is third. Let me give you an example. Google ROAS was $35. Hell, that's pretty good. Great. Every dollar I spend, I get $35 from Google. That's great. Facebook was $20. Well, it's not as good as Google. And native was 15. Stay with me. Well, Google only gave me 10 deals for the month. Facebook gave me 35 and native gave me 3. Where do you want to spend most of your dollars? So here's what I would do. So now I have my $1,000 to spend. Well, that's a great return. Let me turn that knob up and see if I can continue that. Guaranteed in marketing, no matter what you're doing, the more you spend to get more deals, the higher the cost is per sale. It's facts. It's not going to stay at 20, 35 ROAS. It's going to trickle down as you gain more volume. So what the answer to this is, I would go 50% in Google, like up. If I have dollars, I have 1,000, I'm going to spend 2,000. I give 500 extra to Google. I give 400 extra to Facebook. And then I give 100 extra to the other one, right? Because you always want to sprinkle the dust. On Google, what you'll see, because it can only handle so much. People are Googling whatever. You're not getting those new bodies. Think of Google as its own pond of, I want this, here I come. There's only so many in there. So once you continue to spend too many dollars and then you compete with everybody else to get that same fish in that pond, the cost goes skyrocketed. That's the sweet spot. So if you're getting 10 and it's 35 ROAS, this is an example, that's a sweet spot. You continue to throw a little bit of money in there until it goes to up and you're like, okay, I found the sweet spot. I'm going to keep it there. Then you go to Facebook and you do the same thing, but you need volume. So you have to ask yourself, you measure volume versus cost per sale. I wanted more volume. So I knew that if my volume would go up, but my cost per sale would go up 1% or 2%, I would find a way to make that work, because I wanted to grow and have volume. If you only say, I don't want my cost per sale to go up and I just want to stay this percentage profitable, you can't grow. You got to risk it for the biscuit. So in order to grow, you got to put the money in and understand that. And that's why you got to bring more value. You got to be able to put, all these things and understand that that's part of the creation cost. So when we were small, we were like 22% profitable. When we were at our peak, our largest size, we were at like 8 or 9% profitable. And the private equity guys would be like, holy shit, I'd love to see this a 15% business. What can we do to get that marketing cost down, your customer acquisition cost down, your ROAS up? And we said, open new markets, because we had beat the shit out of the markets we're in. That's how it drives down. I said, or offer other services and go back to with something else. And, they like that answer, but they're also like, and I said, well, look, do you want us to do 600 million in sales and be 8% profitable? Or do you want us to do 150 million in sales and be 10%, 15% profitable? You pick. Well, they want the first one. So do we. So the goal is to be as highest percentage, but you have to massage it to what fits you. In a company like yours that wants to expand, you got to understand that you're in a pond where it's cheap, but that pond is never going to stay cheap because there's only so many bodies in that pond. And if you want to expand, you're going after a different kind of fish, a fish that isn't saying, oh my gosh, I need this, let me Google. A fish that goes, interesting, I think I want that. And eventually that will be your biggest pond, because you're going to get more out of that than the people that need it, because you're creating the market. It will cost more, but you'll get more volume. That's how it works. So you have to be able to budget and build around that of saying, and we'll go over this. You're going to go over these tests. You're going to say, okay, like this is this. What do you think we do? It's always moving. You have to have someone pulling the levers. There were times we were at 8% in solar, and then we were at 16%. Like winter months, fucking 16%, right? You know how that is. Certain markets, Detroit, Michigan was like 25% it cost us. Customer acquisition for marketing was a fucking nightmare for a long period of time, right? When DTE raised the rates and all the shit went down, it gone down to 15%. but I wasn't going to close a market. It was still profitable. It was still making money. So I still had to feed the beast and get enough deals there, but I made up for it as an overall company in my newer markets and my little ponds, because it's all about diversification. You can't grow if you stay in one pond. So you're going to have to play that game, and just know that Google's always going to be, it's never going to be your biggest horse, but it's going to be your highest percentage of profit. That's just normal. And your lowest percentage cancel, but it's never going to be your biggest provider. If you do the digital, like I'm talking about, that will bring you more deals than that. Well, I know a lot of people on LinkedIn that are doing podcasts. Yeah. One thing, I think it's important to join groups, right? Like whether it be Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, I'm real big into that. I'd like to build this coaching up. I've joined like 4 or 5 groups on LinkedIn. I've got to get some on Facebook and take my own advice and do that. But it's important to join these groups, because that's where people go to find things. So like, oh, I'm in this group, let me go there. And as long as you plant your seed, or, put your seat in there, then you can see what happens from that. I think it's important, more content, obviously, especially, when you can get third-party content of you speaking at an event, or like you said, a panel, the credibility just rises, right? So
exactly.
It's similar. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to go meet with Gary Vee's team to do that speaker bureaus thing, so I can have more credibility when I'm talking about coaching. I'm out there, on stage and mention it and see what I can do. And so I think I'm a big believer of you. It's not just your company brand; it's your brand that you got to build.
It's the personal brand.
You are
Absolutely.
your company. TikTok, Pinterest. I would also look at. Let me think. What other companies do we have? There's YouTube. You got to look at YouTube. They do videos, ads as well, that are pretty good. You want to do reels and shorts. Shorts are on YouTube. You want to do reels on Instagram. And you could sponsor them. The goal is, at one time, we're on all kinds of platforms I've never even fucking heard of. We were on like Bing, and that was their website. We're in all kinds of shit, right? But I challenged our marketing team. I said, listen, and we were going public. Like, they were like, guys, you're on like 5 platforms. You need to diversify. What if that fucking platform changed their algorithm? And Facebook did that. Like, people do this. And then you're like, fuck, and you're almost starting over. So I challenged, I said, I want to be on fucking 30 fucking platforms. And we were on 31, and like 17 of them I never even fucking heard of, but we were on there, and it was driving a little bit. And we always paid attention to the ROAS. What was our, maybe it only got 3% of our spend, but it got something, because we got something out of it. It made sense. You're always going to have these levers. You're going to hit us a peak where it costs too much on a platform, because you're seeing the same eyeballs. Right. Yep. So it's like, when you hit that peak, you need to know when it's like, okay, I don't, that's my threshold. I don't want to go higher than. So, and if I need more juice, if I need more customers, I need more volume, more gas, I got to diversify into the other platforms. I can't push this one too high, because you will eventually price yourself out. Like, when you're in a market so long and you're just pounding it one platform, that shit just goes up. It doesn't go down. So you want it to stay around the same. That's a sweet spot. One thing you'll always notice too, if you expand, and I'm hoping that's what we could get you to do, open up new markets, go in new places. When you do that, the lead cost and your goes way down, your dispatch goes way down, and your ROAS goes way up real fast, because you're the first one in there on the digital, right? Once you saturate your own market, it stays consistent. I remember when we first started doing digital marketing, like in Michigan, we were paying like $10 a lead. When we closed, we were paying $100. Okay. So it went up 10 times. It's okay. We could afford it because we had a great closing rate with a great brand. It was a $60,000 ticket with a battery. There were things that we could afford, but when you're fucking first to the fucking thing, it's like dirt cheap, because those algorithms, those platforms are throwing you to the front of everybody, and people are like eating that shit up. Then after they've seen it 5,000 times, you get diminished returns. So the only way you manage that is diversifying your platforms and growing into new markets. That's how you can control that. Love to talk about that. I love comp plans, dude. I love to go over comp plans.
There's not much you don't love.
Well, there are some things I don't love. Okay. I don't love finances, although I'll go over them. But Brian will tell you, I like numbers now. And he's like, we're still working on April's books. It's May 2nd. I'm like, well, you're fucking 2 days late. We should have it at April 30th at the end of 5 o'clock. I want to know how we did. So there are things I don't like. Yeah, but I do love most of the stuff, just because I love the the hunt, the game, the whole thing. I love it. I love to see the stuff. Now, when it was my companies and I had to change sales plans, I was like, fuck, we got to change sales plans again. And I would get excited because I want to be creative I have a 70-30 rule in a lot of times, especially for leadership, pay them 70% of their salary, make 30% based on company's profit or what they've brought to the table, driving business to where you want their 100% comp plan to be. Therefore, they have a vested interest to not just come in and clock in. There's going to be results driven. I'm a big believer in that in all positions in the company. Like that's a big deal to me. No, I get it. And I'm a big fan. We did that all the way from people booking appointments to managers, to leaders, to installers, to project managers, to service leaders. Like we did that in a lot of our positions. Some positions it's hard to do if you just have somebody counting beans and doing accounting. It's hard to say, but they can be profitable on the business being profitable, right? But you don't want them to screw the books over. So that's a funny line there. There's different options, though, you got to think about. Customer service, we used to bonus our old customer service teams on their quality of calls, their call time. You'd win an award, things like that. But you just want to keep the competition up, and you don't want them just clocking in and clocking out. The other thing you always talk about is profit sharing, which we mentioned a little bit, which I think is important too. Where you offer, certain employees, leadership employees, a way to be, if the company's profitable, they're profitable. They get a spiff. We do that now in the new venture. And it doesn't kill the company, but it allows them to feel like an owner without owner rights and get paid on profit of the business. And it's a good deal. Wouldn't you agree, Brian? Like it works out for these folks. It'll be costly when we're huge, but it's worth it. That's the deal you make. And you want them to be there for that. Right? You want them to be able to post them on the wall and say, look, they started when we opened and look what they're doing now because they were part of that. Don't you want to be part of this? You always want to have that story to tell, right? And so you need folks like that for that success story. Same thing with you, Danielle, like whoever's running your things, you need to tell the story. They came in, they're doing this. Now they're a leader here when you're hiring. Don't you want to follow that path? We might open another location, right? You want to build that hope and that desire for them. But people come in, they take jobs for three reasons. They take jobs for the opportunity. They see the growth opportunity in the business. They see other people being successful. They see the growth ladder. 2, money. 3, culture. If you work on those 3 things, you'll get the best people. But they've got to see the ladder. They got to see people moving up the ladder, because some people aren't as motivated of money. They want to be I want to be a manager. I want to be a general manager. I want to be a director. Some people are driven by title. Some people are driven by that ladder of success. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I like that. I mean, I like money too, but I like to move up. That's how I was. I wanted to be number one. And then some people are only driven on money, or money's part of that equation. And then the culture. Like, you got to make that culture fun. The downfall and the greatest thing of the businesses I've ever ran is it was cult-like. And I didn't do that on purpose. But because we gave profit sharing, and because we gave hope, and because we had the success story of growing within, moving people within the company up to be managers and directors and regionals, it was almost like a cult. Like, they were all in. And the problem with that's a great thing, because then they're giving you 110% most of the time. The problem with it is if they're not on the team anymore, there is no, it was a good ending. They hate you. You're like the ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, and they can't stand you now because they're not part of it anymore. That's what happens. That's a good and it's a bad. To me, people ask me all the time, well, would you change it? No, I wouldn't. I do the same thing, because I'd rather have people go into bat for me, like we're in a battle, like we're in a war, all in, no matter what. And then we deal with the ones that leave and they don't like us. They hate us because they're not part of it. Fine. Rather than I just get half-assed people that only put in half-assed effort and I get half-assed results. I'm not a fan of that. So I like them to drink the full Kool-Aid and be all in. And I don't purposely make it cult-like, but because we're all rowing the same way and we're excited and we're all on motivation and we all have the same dream and we're, everybody's got skin in the game, it becomes that way. So I've got 3 solar people I'm working with right now. Right. And so everything's NDA and everything like this, but one's a commercial guy trying to get into residential. One's a guy that does only residential in California, is looking to expand. And one's a guy that's looking to sell his business, and he's doing really, really, really well, and he needs to raise capital. The first one I mentioned, though, that's running the residential company and trying to grow, they are at somewhat the infancy stage, similar to where you guys are, probably a year or two advanced. They did $7 million last year in sales. So my first year in doing solar, I was in North Carolina. When I opened, it was like the best market to be in. You had the 30% tax credit for the feds, and you had 35% for state. So you had all these, what I call locusts, people that don't operate in the state that come in and take business and then leave the customers hanging. You had Locust everywhere. It was bad. NRG, all of those companies back when they were exploding. And I left the home security business because I got tired of it and I was excited about solar. Todd Peterson was a friend of mine. He was a mentor. I was like, dude, I want to do what he did. I want to leave this platform and go into solar. And so when we did, I wasn't ready for that. Like, you guys are selling software. I was used to selling paper. Like, I was used to selling home security, ADT, Brinks. Like, we sign you up, we install you, we get paid, 2 days from now. I wasn't used to, we signed somebody up, we pay for marketing, we signed somebody up, and I'm waiting like 2-3 months to get paid when it's installed. Like, it was a cash problem. Okay. And I had to take all the money I made from the first few businesses I sold and sell my house to put it into it and not get paid for almost 2 years. So it was a humbling, hard experience that I had to go through. And I was running appointments at the beginning. Like, for like 6 months, 8 months, I was the one running the appointments. But here's why I went into it a little different than what most people would have done. My first home security company I built was all door knocking, van teams, like pulling up with the whole wrapped car, people knocking on the door, getting interest, having the van manager come close the deal. That's what I built. That was great. But it was 2005 to like 2010. That was cool. You can't do that now, in my opinion. People don't want you to bother them at their door. Then the second venture, for about 2 years, I owned a call center in Pakistan. I owned a call center in China, and we did all telemarketing. And we had call centers everywhere where we'd buy data and we would call all these people. And it was a telemarketing, monster, but we didn't know much about telemarketing. So every time we turned around, we were getting lawsuits from professional plaintiffs that had 100 phone numbers. And they're like, I'm on the DNC, pay me $5,000 or we're suing you. And that became a nightmare. So those were real big pain points for me in that industry, where when I opened solar, I said, look, I'm never going to deal with door knockers again, because I don't like the kind of people they are. Meaning, like, after they make money, they disappear. Like, they're gone all weekend. They don't show up Monday, and you're handcuffed to them for them to help keep your company growing. 2, I don't want to deal with telemarketers or call centers again. I don't trust people. I got sick of small Mickey Mouse lawsuits for Johnny, who has a call center in Texas. It's like, hey, we'll sell you alarm deals, and you think they're following the rules and they're not. You get sued on behalf of. I was like, I'm done. We're controlling everything. So the first 6 months, 5-6 months, I was buying from Solar Reviews. I was buying from Clean Energy. Like, actually, Clean Energy Experts, we were one of their first customers, helped put them on the map. But we were buying from them, doing all those things, right? And it was a mess. Energy Sage was a nightmare. You're bidding on people. And I'm like, this is bullshit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I said,
that one as well.
Oh my God, it's the worst. So I said, you know what? We haven't touched those in like 7 years, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. This is a failed experiment dealing with these guys. I'm going to learn digital marketing myself. So I would learn how to do the lead gen myself. And they didn't have YouTube courses and stuff, 2015 when I opened up. And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, I'm one that I like to get my hands dirty and learn it. So someone can't bullshit me, right? Someone that works for me can't go, man, this is how you do it. No, it's not, dude. This is how you do it. I don't want to hear that. Like, you're full of, like, no, like, this is how this works. Don't blow smoke. So I figured it out, and it started to work to where I was creating, it was, wasn't as great as it could be, but I was creating enough leads coming in where I would have people call and qualify them. And then I would send people out to run them. So what it meant is, and we were the first company in solar really doing this, everybody was door knocking, is I had the gold. I had the gold because I didn't have to hire a hunter to go get it. I had to hire a farmer to take this appointment and farm the deal, educate the consumer, see why they're there, why solar is important to them. What are their buying remarks? What are their pain points? What's their excitement? And I trained and helped build this thing. Like, when you go into a home, customers don't want to be sold. They want to be empowered to make a decision. So you give them the education and you lay everything out there, and then you let them make that decision. So I figured out that not only was this a good experience for the consumers, it was a good experience because then I didn't have to hire salespeople. I could hire teachers. We've hired lawyers because they made more money running appointments than they did doing law. We hired loan officers. We hired normal people that, as long as they could, have a great conversation and they can educate a consumer, that was it, right? So contrary to what, like, half the world thinks Pink Energy did all these bad things and half the world thinks, like, truly, we had a full compliance team, a full legal team. Everything was TCPA compliant. We had audited financials for 5 years. We did everything the right way. Our proposals, we were expensive, but we offered energy efficiency. We installed ourselves like you guys are doing. That costs more. American made panels, all the financing's built in. So we did all those things. the right way until we didn't. That's why we had the A+ for 8 years. And that's why we did 5 NFL stadiums. I was big on integrity and making sure we gave a 10-day cancellation period for consumers, not 3, not 5, not 7, 10. So all the consumers that raised their hand and loved us, they picked us because we were the best. When the shit hit the fan and we all of a sudden had 10,000 customers that had an update on their system that turned them off, and we didn't know for 4 or 5 months this was happening. We went from 800 phone calls to 30,000. We couldn't get out of the tidal wave of the shitstorm that happened. That was one of the biggest failures, was not having a backup, a secondary company on our inverters and our batteries. Mm-hmm. And that was the issue that happened. That's a whole nother, can of worms. But what I learned in that situation as we grew is the bigger you get, the more compliant you have to be. What would happen was we would run ads under Pink and Power Home that would draw them in, and we'd build a brand. And so at first it's a little expensive because you're creating brand awareness and people are learning who your company is. But we were going into states, gentlemen, that nobody was doing solar. So it was really hard, but we were creating a marketplace.